This is Gemara in Kiddushin Daf Yomi. As we pick it up on the bottom of Chav Tesamid Beis, approximately 8 lines from the bottom of the 2 dots. We'd like to dedicate again the learning for the month of Elul as an incredible schos aliyas neshama for Esther Ezel Basar Ameir B'siyata Deshmaya. Her neshama should be oila to higher and blazing Gan Eden Shamayla as the schos of the Torah of the entire Chabura. And we pick it up towards the bottom of Chav Tesamid Beis. Says the Gemara, Mishtabach le Rav Chisda Rav Huna Rav Chisda. Praise Rav Huna bid Rav Hamnuna that what the Adam Gadol, he was a great man. Amar Leik Shiabel Yadchos, when he comes to you, have you bring him to me. Kiasa, when he came Chadzidlo Paris Sudre, he saw that he said this guy's a great guy, an Adam Gadol, and yet he's not Paris Sudre. What's Paris Sudre? He's not wearing a head covering. Who cares? A married person used to wear a head covering. So he saw he wasn't married. Amar Lehi responds, "My temel paris sudre. Why are you not covering your head?" Amar Lehi says, "Because the lo nisimna, I'm not married." He turned his head away from him. He didn't want to look at him. He was a way of showing that he didn't like what he did. Amar Lehi chazi de lo chazlu la'abe adinas Ravuna adinas. Don't see my face until you get married. But Ravuna, the Gemara explains why lamaisa did Ravuna not get married. Ravuna l'tamei da'amar. Excuse me. Why was Rav Huna so upset? The reason is because he held if you're 20 years old and you didn't get married, all your days are be'avera. Be'avera is really? You're sitting every day? No. There are thoughts of avera if a 20-year-old boy is not married. Amar Rava says, Rava v'cheitan Rav Yishmael an chav shani yoshev kadosh baruch hu u'misabel adam masa isha. Until 20, Hashem sits and waits. When's this person getting married? 2 lines in the bottom. Kim shegia chavlo nasa amar tipa chatzmaisav, let his bones rot. Amar Rav Chisda had difna michavrai. You know why I'm greater than my friend? Says Rav Chisda, because the nesivda b'shitzar. Because I got married at age 16. The avne sinna bar beisar, and if I would have gotten married at 14, says Rav Chisda, hava amina l'sata and gira be'inach. I would have been able to tell this. I would have been able to tell this Satan, there's an arrow in your eye, saying of the incredible maila of marriage early. And of course, as we saw yesterday, halan halahu, different minhagim as to when is the precise time one should get married, and everyone obviously has to follow their rabbeim, their rabbanim, their gedalim, etc. And of course, this is where we'll call the Chassidish model comes from, of the very early marriage. Amar le Rav Rav Nasan Barami adidach al tzavare adiyodach al tzavare, when your hand is on the neck of Dibreich, of your son, mishitzar vad esrim, until 16 until 20 v'tarti 2 v'amrila, and some say mitam nisriyad esem v'arba, and some say from 18 to 24. That's when you should make sure to give your son the appropriate advice, give him musar at the time in which you have control over your son. Says the Gemara, kitanoi, like a machlekes tanoim, kitanoi, that what? Says the Terech lenar al pidarkai, I hope it doesn't start raining. Chanech lenar al pidarkai, Rav Yehuda Rav Nechemya, chadamar mishitza vat esev etartin, that's when is the chenach, chadamar mitivna sriyad esev vat arba, 18 to 24, the times of marriage, the times of chenach. And of course, we know Chanach Lenar al Pidarkai is each stage in life a different level of Chanach. Here we're obviously referring to not to the Chanach of teaching a child what's mutter and what's us. This is more the Chanach of the Hashkafa, of the ethics, of the way to live the rest of one's life. Says the Gemara 7 lines down, Ad Echad Chayev Adam Lil Bayit Ez B'nai Torah. Until how much, what extent is one mechuyav, is one obligated to teach his son Torah? Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel going Zvulun ben Dan. You know how much you have to teach your son Torah, like Zvulun ben Dan, Shlumda Avi Aviv Mikra Mishta Talmud Allah is like Kadis. That his grandfather, his Avi Aviv, taught him, and not only did his grandfather teach him, as the Gemara will be Madai, he taught him Chumash, Mishnah, Gemara, Halachos, and Agadis. Asks the Gemara on Shmuel, Meisvei, Limdai Mikra, Ein Melamdai Mishnah. If a father teaches his son Mikra, he doesn't have to teach him Mishnah. V'amar Rava, what does Mikra mean? Mikra zu Torah. So why are you telling me, Shmuel, that you're obligated to teach him Mikra Mishnah Gemara, halachis, agadli, said not only he, but also the grandfather, we see all you have to do is mikra. Explains the Gemara, Kizvulin ben Dan, lo Kizvulin ben Dan. Shmuel was teaching us you have to go like Zvulin, but not all the way. Kizvulin ben Dan, that watch, lim de avi aviv. That obligation to teach Torah is not just on a parent, but it's also on a grandparent. But like Kizvulin ben Dan, and not like Zvulin ben Dan, Dilu Hasam, Mikra Mishnah Talmud Halachas v'agadais, he taught everything. Whereas we're basketing that just chumash is enough. Asks the Gemara, really? You just told me that we go with Zvulun ben Dan, that a grandfather is an obligation to teach Torah. Vavi aviv mi machayiv. Is a grandfather really obligated? Vatani, we learned in a brayso. We learn out from the pasuk you have to teach the b'nei and not the b'nei, not the grandchildren. Omani Makayim, and how do we fulfill the pasuk that says should make known to your children, your grandchildren? Explains the Gemara, that's Laimer Lacha, that teaches us Shakolam Alamid has been no Torah. Malav Akasav Kilamda Loi Ula Benai Ula Ben Benai Saif Kol Atayres. That pasuk teaches us that if you teach your son Torah, it's as if not only did you teach him, you taught the grandchildren, you taught Torah until the end of all generations. Explains the Gemara, who da'amar ki Tana. He holds like the following Tana, the Tana v'latamos samas b'nechem, ainli ela b'nechem. So the Tana that holds that the chiyuv to learn Torah is not only on b'nechem, b'nechem and ayin, where do we see even the grandchildren? This is what Zvulun ben Dan held. If that's true, imkein ma'atam loimer b'nechem. What do we do with the pasuk that seemingly taught us which only meant b'neichem, your sons, and not your grandsons? And you're telling me there's an obligation to teach even the grandchildren. Explains the Gemara, b'neichem v'loi b'noi seichem. We darshan your sons and not your daughters. So we have a machlekes tanayim whether the obligation to teach Torah goes all the way to the grandchildren or whether it stops only at the children. But everyone concludes that it's loi b'noi seichem. Amar of Yeshua ben Levi. Call Lamid as Ben Benoy Torah. As anyone teaches grandchild Torah Malav Akasav, Kilu Kibla Me'ar Sinai. It's as if you accepted the Torah from Har Sinai. Shenamar, as the pasuk says, says you to make them known the Torah to your grandchildren. And what does the Torah put in here there? And you stood in front of Hashem at Har Sinai. So we see that teaching Torah to the grandchild is as if accepting the Torah at Har Sinai. That he was wearing some sort of head covering, and he was bringing his child to the shul to teach him, have him learn Torah. Amar le, Michael, hi, what are you doing so much? Amar le, you responded, Mi zuta, is any last? Maidich say from the pasuk it says, V'dalav necha, and b'samach le, nearby that pasuk it says, Yo'om Hashematzav nei Hashem elikecha b'chayriv. Mikan ve'iloch, when he took the Musar, that had such an incredible mailah to teach the Torah, to facilitate the learning of the Torah, to bring the child to yeshiva, to shul, etc. Mikan ve'iloch, Rav Chia bar Abba loitam umsa, he wouldn't eat breakfast. Rashi says he had some sort of fleshing of breakfast. Ad demikri yanuka, until he would teach the child, umaisve, and add on another pasuk, till he would chazer, and teach him an extra pasuk, only then would he eat breakfast. 2 lines for the medium-sized lines. Rav Huna, Rabbi Rav Huna loita mumsa, he wouldn't need anything. I demaisi liyanuka be midrash until he brought the child to Beis Medrash. Amar Rav Safra, Mishom, Rav Yishom and Chananya, on the first medium-sized line, Maidich, what is the meaning of the pasuk? V'shinantem levanecha, al tikvi v'shinantem elo v'shilashtem. You know what that means? The Olam Yashlish Adam Shanaisav Shlish B'Mikra, Shlish B'Mishneh, and Shlish B'Talmud. You should split up your days, a third in Chumash, a third in Mishnayis, and a third in Gemara. Says the Gemara, how can you do that? How do you know how long you're going to live? 60, 80, 90, 120 years? Says the Gemara, you're right. Lo yitzricha liyoimi. It meant every day. You should split a third Chumash, a third Mishnah, and a third Gemara. Therefore, Nikar Rishayim, the earlier generation, Seifrim, Sheyas Seifr Koloisi Shabbat Torah. We see in a critical importance. They would place in the Torah that they would write every letter, Sheyayim, and they would say, Vava Digachain, Chetchit Shalaisis. They would know exactly precisely how many letters are on in Torah. That the Vav of Gachain is the halfway point of the letters Shal Torah. Darash, the pasuk Chetchit Shal Tevais is half of the word of the Torah. V'iskalach shel psukim is half of the psukim of the Torah. Yechar semena chazer miyar, the ayin, the yar is chatzit shel tilim, is half of tilim. V'urachim v'chaper avon is chatzit the psukim of tilim. Boi Rav Yosef, vav de gachain mehaygisa, or mehaygisa. You told me that the vav of gachain is the halfway point of Torah. Says the Gemara, which side is the vav on? Is it on the first half of Torah? Is it on the second half of Torah? Amar le nesi sefer Torah v'aminu. Bring a sefer Torah and let's count. We'll figure out which side the vav is on. Milam Rabbi Rechana, the Rabbi Rechana not teaches osaz misham de nemuva cheva sefer Torah menam. So he brought a sefer Torah and counted. Amar le inu b'ki b'chaseres v'yaseres. You're right. Rabbi Rechana was a baki in the chaseres and the yaseres, the extra letters, etc. So he could count. Anan loy b'ki, and we're not a baki, and therefore we're not able to count. And that's why we're asking, where does the vav stand? By Rav Yosef V'iskalach ma'agisa me'agisa. So what about the word V'iskalach? You told me that's the halfway point of Torah. Which half is the word V'iskalach on? So on that, Amar le'abaya, psukam ni'alesu lemnuye. Psukim we could count. Maybe we can't count how many words and letters are in the Torah, because we're not a baki in the Yiseres and the Chaseros. But psukim we should be able to count. Says the Gemara, psukim nami lo bakina, we're not even baki in a psukim. In the West, in Eretz Yisrael, they said the following pasuk is really 3 psukim. They counted as 3 psukim, so proves the Gemara that they didn't even know exactly where the psukim are broken up, so even that they cannot count. Tanu Rabbanan says the Gemara, 3 lines on the bottom of Lamed and Aleph, Chameshes alafim 5,000, Ushmanim Meos and 800, Ushmainim 888, 5,888. Psukim avi psuki sefer Torah. Yes, you love Tilim. Shemaina. Tilim has another 8. Chasim and a Divrayam. Shemaina. Divrayam has 5 less. And on the side over here, different Kirsais point out that we don't really have 588. But okay, let's leave that for now. Taner Rabban Vishinantam, a very famous and a critical in Gemara. Vishinantam, we learn from there. She'devrei Torah mechudaldim, as we sharpen your mouth. That what? She'mishalucha adam davar, if someone asks you something, al tegamkim, don't delay. V'taymer loy. Ela omer loy miyad, you have to respond right away. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Emer lachachma, you tell the wisdom achaysiat, you are my sister. And 2 very important Rashis. Rashi here points out, how can you make the Torah mechudadim bepicha? Chazar aleim. Of course, it's with chazara, and that is how you know everything perfectly. And what does it mean? That the Torah should be like your sister. The Tab Rashi says, not like you know your sister, but like you know that your sister is usher to you. That's how simple it should be, a spit-back response. Almost like we could say milk and meat. Of course it's usher. Your sister is usher. That's how we should respond to every shayla asked to us. That's the level of chazara that one has to be do in order to be able to respond with such precision. Continues the Gemara on the top of Lamed Amid Beis, V'aymer, continuing quoting Psukim, Ksharim al Tbasecha, tie them on your fingers, Kisva Maluch Libecha, write the Torah on the tablet of your heart, V'aymer Kechitzim Yad Gibor, like the arrows in the hands of the mighty, Kain B'nei Anurim, just like in the hands of the youth, V'aymer Chetzi Gibor Shenunim, V'aymer Chetzgich Shenunim Amich Tatecha Yiplu. It's going to be able to kill all the enemies. V'aymer Ashe Agever Shamali Es Hashpasa Mehem. Le'yavaishu Ki Daber Es Ayvim Bashar. Mayis Ayvim Bashar. What does that mean? Amar Avchia Barabba Afilu Ha'av U'Benoi Haravu Talmidei Sha'iskim HaTorah. You know what it means? Enemies. Father and son learn. Rebbe and Talmud learns. Bishar Echa Nasim Ayvim Zelazeh. One gate they hate each other, but Ve'enon Zazim Yisham they don't move. Nasim Ayvim Zelazeh till they love each other. Shenemar as Vayi V'Aseifa Al Tikvid B'Seifa L'B'Aseifa. At the end of the day, they will come to a point of loving each other. Continues the Gemara. Okay, a little bit of a change of venue, not to get wet. Taner Rabbana V'Samtem Sam Tam. What does the pasuk V'Samtem mean? Sam Tam Nimshal Torah Kisam Chaim. The Torah is equated to the potion of life. Mashal Adam is comparable to a person. She gets Benoi, he hits his son, Makkah Gedayla, an incredible Makkah, V'nichle Ritial Makasai, and the father puts a bandage on the Makkah. Amrloin, he tells his son, B'ni, my son, cause match your tears, as long as this bandage is on your wound, you can eat whatever you want, you could drink what you want, and you can bathe yourself in cold or warm water. You don't have to be worried about anything as long as the bandage is on. Avira, but if you remove the bandage, Arehi Mala Numi, you're going to get a terrible disease. Kacha Kadosh Baruch Hu in the last narrow line, Amar Lahem, Hashem tells us, Li Yisrael Teklai Yisrael B'ni, my son, Barasi Yitzhahara, very famously, Hashem created the Yitzhahara, or Barasi Loi Torah Tavlin, and Hashem created the Torah as the antidote. V'imata Ma'iskim B'Torah, if you toil in the Torah, Einata Nimsarim B'Yadai, the Yitzhahara will not be given to your hand. Shnemar Loyim Seitav Seis V'im Einata Iskim B'Torah. But if you don't deal with the Torah, Nimsar B'Yadai, you'll be given over to the hand of the Yitzhahara. Shnemar Ulepesach Achatas Urayvitz, it's crouching by the door. Not only that, not only do you have to be Isaac in Torah, but all your goings and comings, all your mas and maton has to be in the Torah. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, and if you want, you will rule over the Yitzhahara. Shenemar vata timshol. Boy, the critical importance of how Torah beats the Yitzhahara. Sometimes one will wonder, he has such terrible nisyanis, how could he overcome them? And we're learning over here that what's the answer? The answer to everything in life is a little bit more Torah. Tana Rabbanan says the Gemara Kashi Yitzhahara, the Yitzhahara is difficult. Shafilu Yitzra, even the creator of the Yitzhahara, Hashem himself, Kari Ra, called it evil. Shnema Kitzah Leva Adam Ra Minura, I created something in your heart that's evil, that's bad. It becomes greater, becomes renewed, I should say, each and every day. Here means gets greater every day. And the Yitzhahara wants to literally kill you. Words that are really empowering, really encouraging, because sometimes we feel suffocating. That's exactly what Hashem designed. We should feel like the Yitzhahara is killing us, and if not for the help of Hashem, we will not be able to withstand it. In if you bump into this menuvel, this disgusting entity, the Yitzhahara, what should you do? You got to pull the Yitzhahara into the base of Medrash. If the Yitzhahara is a stone, you're able to dissolve it in barzel of its iron, you're able to crack it open. The words of Hashem, the Torah is like fire, and like the hammer that knocks into the iron. And now we continue quoting the next part of the mission, over 7 lines from the wide lines, that we learned that a father had an obligation, Lasiya Isha. Minolan, where we know this from, it says, take women and marry them off to your sons, and give your daughters to men. So says the Gemara, I understand your son, it's biyadeh, it's within your pari to marry him off. How's your daughter within your pari? You can't make a man marry her. Says the Gemara, this is what you should do for your daughter, Lu. Give her something, and dress her, and give her properties, it's true. You can't force a man to marry the girl, but what you could do is you could put her in a desirable position by dressing her properly, giving her money, giving her properties, and then the men are going to want to marry her. And the Gemara continues 4 lines from the wide lines, and you teach a trade, already you know you have a obligation to teach your children a trade. If it means a woman, just like you have to get married, you have to teach a trade. If it refers to Torah as the word, as the Isha could refer to Torah, and we conclude in the first line, you have to even teach them how to swim, because that is what keeps a person alive. You taught the person how to steal. Really, you taught them to be a robber. What's the difference that Rav Yehuda says omnis? Now the Agmi iska. The machlekes here is you're able to teach an iska, a business. Rav Yehuda says no. Rav Yehuda says you have to actually teach a omnis, a craft, and Rashi explains because a craft doesn't go out of style. A business could go out of style. There's different businesses, top and bottom, but a craft, a handyman, will always be necessary. We'll stop over here and pick it up from here in the next year. B'siyata Dishmaya.